All right. Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the town hall, the YOM town hall. We are joined today by Julian. He is the CMO over at Genzio, a marketing company that's very big in the Web3 space. And I've had some exposure with, thanks to Genzio or YOM, the company has had some exposure thanks to their work. So I wanted to have Julian and I were talking earlier this week and laughing a lot about our gaming history and the stuff that we go, that where we kind of match up in our histories. But anyways, I'll let Julian introduce himself to the YOM community, and we'll take it from there. Go ahead, Julian.
Yeah, pleasure to meet everybody. Jeff, thanks for having me. My name is Julian. I've been in the Web3 space specifically for the past few years, but normally actually came from the gaming space. So I started gaming and making YouTube videos when I was about 12 to 13 years old and
Yeah.
ended up, I know it sounds crazy, but ended up pioneering and leading some of the biggest esports organizations and teams in the space from
Nice.
that point. I founded my first gaming team when I was 15, and I actually sold it at 18 to the co-owner of the Texas Rangers and moved down here to Dallas. So I've had a long history in building brand and gaming, specifically working with gaming creators, building my own brand and gaming, and then since kind of transversed and tried to apply not only my passion for gaming but my passion for marketing into Web3 and then additionally other verticals. So do a lot of different things, but it's a blessing every day. So
So my experience inside the gaming space, or gaming creation space, like the being inside of game developers, is sometimes the marketing guy gets looked at with a squinty eye from the development team because the creatives are like, "Hey, marketing guys, you aren't trying to push our game into something just to sell it." And
yep.
I was fortunate. I had some of the marketing guys I work with were really stellar, and they looked at it differently. They're like, no, we're just trying to help you get your game that your dream out published and everything. Do you have you lived through that cycle as well, where you're like, hey, marketing is supposed to be helping, and don't treat us like an adversary. We're here to help.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely interesting because I could represent both dynamics. Part of what I became popular for and what our organizations do is we're like on the opposite side of the developer, right? Where we're kind of marketing their game for them by creating on their platform, right? And so it's been interesting the relationships that I've curated with developers and the dynamic between being a creator and then discussing with the developer because they have to keep their interests and minds in terms of where they believe their vision is going from a game building perspective. Whilst as a creator, you're like, well, I want it to be the most entertaining, right? I want it to be fun. I want people to enjoy it. And so we can go into a long conversation about how that affects the esports landscape, but it's definitely been interesting and fun. And yes, more often than not, I feel like people get in their own way when it comes to gaming marketing. It's a very community focused experience. And so the more that you can listen to your community to an extent, because they always think they know what's best,
Right.
is probably better. So
So there's a couple places I want to go with that,
yep.
the esports side of things as well. But let's first talk about YOM and how you found, how I found you guys when I was in Austin for Consensus. I got invited probably through Outlier Ventures, but invited to come and sit in, and you guys did an interview with us, and it was great. It was a lot of smart questions were asked, and it was really, I think, for me, one of my first exposures. The only thing I didn't like about it was the chair I was sitting in made me look, it gave me a pooch. It made me look like I had a belly. And I'm so
Yeah,
self-conscious.
I'll tell the team to get better chairs for sure.
No, it's me. I got to do more sit-ups. But anyway, so that's when I got exposed to Genzio. From there, is that how you saw YOM, or where was it from there
Yeah.
that you found
Yeah,
us?
no, that was our original connection point, and then we jumped on a call, and I think you and I just really connected well from the rip. I mean, I think that what I love about YOM is, first of all, I'm very critical of Web3 gaming in general because as a traditional gaming influencer and builder of brands in that space, there's some things that I see where I'm like, like, does it really make sense? Is it really authentic? But with YOM, I think I really resonate with the vision of being able to put accessibility in people's hands. First of all, that's best. That's better for everybody, right? The
Right.
opportunity to cloud stream games when gaming. I mean, I just had to buy a new PC. It was like $5,000, and I'm building that PC to be competitive when I stream games, record games to when I'm editing, and that's not able to be done by most people. And even
Right.
nowadays with consoles too, they're getting more expensive, right? They're getting hard to reach. And so one, I echoed with that vision. And then two, the opportunity for gamers to potentially earn by using their software, maybe a gamer like me, who I'm not gaming all the time, to earn, I think is an awesome, awesome offering. And so I was more enamored and excited about the potential for the user, because I'm more on that side of that user, and what the possibilities were for that, and genuine offering to the gaming community, which I don't often see personally. And I think that's why we hit it off so well. And I can tell that you guys have great intentions in building in this space. And so that's what I love. Because
You know,
I do think like there's bad blood for no reason between the Web 2 and Web 3 gaming space, because traditional gamers are so they're intimidated by Web 3 gaming because of bad acting in the past. What they need
right.
more of is projects like YOM, who are coming in to bring true offering to them in an authentic way that isn't really invasive, so that they can start to understand, man, this Web 3 stuff actually does help. It's going to help our experience. It's going to help our daily lives of playing games. We just have to be a little bit more open to it. So
Yeah. I had a conversation earlier this week too about that idea that when we go to GDC, which I'm making plans to go to now, the breaking through that wall or trying to explain to the traditional game makers that the reason why a lot of the earlier offerings in the Web3 gaming space were probably lackluster, or they ended up having bad economics, was really because we didn't have a lot of like seasoned game developers. We had some, but not a lot of seasoned game developers in the space. And really, just like every other part of crypto, it attracted scammers. And I feel like they've mostly left. They've taken their money and they've retired with it, I guess. But we have like having to break that wall down and saying you're right that this is a gaming space. It's Web3. It's just another aspect you can add to your game. You don't have to, but it takes economics that you normally would put into a game anyways, and in some ways allows you to let them go in and out of the game, which is ultimately helpful, really.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, but the esports angle of things, you and I haven't spoken about this as well, so I'm going to put you on the spot. There must be, if you think about what YOM offers and esports, where does your mind go to as far as like coordinating those two avenues?
Yeah, I think it's definitely interesting, and the potential is there. Often more than not, I think that the problem with esports right now is that the developer gets in the way. If
How
I had
so?
just like, if you think about like traditional competitive anything, if you're thinking about sports, right? The NFL isn't the creator of football. They are simply somebody that put a league together with designations that not only increase the viewability of the sport, but also the playing of the sport. you know, One of the things that is a problem for esports right now is that the developer is also it's creating the game. They're producing a game where they're trying to entertain their audience of the gamers that are playing it on a daily basis. But then there's the competitive player who is having to endure consistent changes of the game sometimes on a weekly to a monthly basis, having to remain competitive, and how that affects the viewability of the game as well. And so to your point, I think that there's a lot of integration opportunity, but more often than not, the developers are intimidated by new technology like this. And I think it's going to take that open mindedness and also adaptation, which I think that's why I like YOM. Focusing on and empowering the user, which is the gamer first, will make others fall in line. That's my opinion.
Right,
It
right.
starts at the consumer, right? So esports has that issue right now, and I think that's like been the notable issue where, when it comes to its scale and its ability to become something more, the NFL doesn't change its rules every month. The NFL
Mhm.
doesn't change the way that football works every 2 weeks. In gaming, that happens all the time. So as a competitor and as a viewer of competition, it's actually pretty hard to follow. And so that's something that I've been talking about for some long time. And most notably, somebody relevant that came to the esports space said this doesn't work was Mark Cuban. He came in and said, "Wait a minute, how is this ever going to work if the developer is just dictating everything?" And I think that's something that we've been working on. They've introduced franchise leagues, but even then in these franchise leagues that are more like NBA, NFL-ish, they're kind of at the risk of the developer as well, because the developer is just slamming game changes nonstop and the product changes 24/7. So
I expect at some point there's going to be game developers who build their games specifically for esports
Yep.
and that kind of thing. You'll be able to push back on it and say, let's not change the rules while the game is live, or maybe change it. Wait for seasons, right? Wait for next season. Next season we can make a change or addition or something like that.
Yep.
But it's funny because my son watches a fair amount of streams watching people play, and trying to explain it to my wife. I'm like, it's really just the same as us watching, you watching the Patriots, me watching the Steelers. We sit down and we enjoy it.
Yep.
We're picking up a little bit of hints about how to play, and we just enjoy a really good play when it happens, and that's kind of what esports gets to be too.
Yeah, 100%. No, I think there's some that are more easy to pick up than others. Like I could sit my mom down and she'll be like, "Oh, okay," and then there's some where you're just like, "What is even happening?" One of the most notable ones that is so big that I am surprised is as big as it is League of Legends. It's like from a viewership perspective, like how it's so hard. As I play the game and I know, but if I put that on a screen for a normal person, it's impossible.
The following,
Whereas games where like CS:GO is such an easy experience for somebody. There's 5 versus 5. You plant the bomb. When you get eliminated, you're out for the round. It's a
right?
lot more digestible. So the viewing product is always changing, but I think that already is happening. I mean, we've had games recently like the finals that were actually developed specifically. I think were more esports intentions. Now that game specifically didn't seem to resonate within the broader gaming community, so the popularity wasn't there. But I think the sentiment is in that game, and I think additionally there will be games in the future where they're saying, "Listen, we're going to develop around this esports product, and we're going to hope that catapults us to that level that we need to be at." So,
Yeah, I mean, so that's part of the thesis with YOM, right? Is that we're the barrier for putting your game onto our network is so low. In some cases, that could bite us it could bite us to if we do it too low, where it just gets filled with a bunch of schlock. But it is low enough that people who want to experiment with new game mechanics and new game types and again new sports that are something that we like. Hey, let's create a game that's going to be really fun to watch and maybe harder to play. We're not trying to get a lot of players. We're trying to get a lot of viewers, right? How do we, is that worth doing and putting up on Steam? Maybe not, but is it worth trying up on a cloud network that has again, a low cost to broadcast? Maybe so, right? So I think that that's again, part of our thesis is that we enable game mechanics that you wouldn't try to do on a mass basis, right?
yeah, and it's awesome to hear you speak from the developer perspective because it's not something I'm as educated on. But even then, it sounds great because it's like the barrier to getting that feedback and getting that involvement is a lot lower.
Right. That's true.
And traditionally speaking, I could say from my own experience and just managing the opinions of so many content creators, having to do tests on Steams is not the easiest. Like you have to get even when you have direct access to developer. I remember one time we were testing this game for a video sponsorship, and I had to like literally sit there for like 30 to 45 minutes with a guy just to get me access into the game on Steam. Whereas if it was something like Yom, it'd probably be a lot easier to just share access and start going. But it was like a 2-hour activation, and 45 minutes of it was spent getting me that access on Steam. So, and they're the developer, they're the person that created the game, but they're working through this third-party service, right? So,
Right. Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's part of our pitch, right? When we
Yep.
say to people like, "Do you want to? If I find a game that I love and I want to play with you, Julian, I send you the link to the Steam page. You download the game, install the game, update your drivers, and 4 hours later we're playing. Or I send you the link to the website and you and I are playing, or I send it to you in Telegram and I are playing
Yeah.
immediately together, right? How much does that change the way the games are spread around and how they catch on? And again, the long tail of all those great game mechanics games that get made but don't get seen on Steam because the market's kind of crowding them all the way to the top 5, and then they miss
Yep.
out on number 21, which has like the coolest mechanic. So let's talk a little bit about marketing as well, because again,
Yeah.
we marketing in the Web3 space has gone through some changes and things, and I think we keep on getting. I mean, we get approached a lot about KOLs and joining other Telegram groups and showing up at their AMAs, but bring a big bucket of YOM to give away to the people who are listening, which we generally don't do because we feel like it's the wrong incentive to own our token is because you listened into a podcast, because immediately those people sell. I mean,
Yep.
you give them a bucket of YOM and they sell it, and that tanks the price anyways. So we don't generally fall into those things, but like, what are the key pieces of marketing in this space that you think are important for a project like YOM?
Yeah, I mean, I think just authentic integration with gaming communities. Traditionally speaking, I think that's the number one thing I recommend to anything that is pushing towards gamers. So I think I have a couple of opinions about this. One, I feel like in Web3, if somebody has come into it, I wasn't here from the start. I've spent a long time at getting educated, but I believe that is why provide a lot of value. Is I'm here, I understand it, but I also understand the dynamic of the traditional space, which is not understood by a lot of people who are trying to market in Web3. I think the challenge for Web3 gaming initiatives in general is that the KOLs that you are identifying often, in more, in my opinion, are not needle moving KOLs. You know, these are people that I feel are almost echo roomish. And I'm not trying to talk down on anybody, but from somebody who's speaking, and I have a lot of influence in the traditional gaming space, a ton of it. I just don't see the opportunity for pushing new adopting gamers into the Web3 space from these Web3 KOLs. I think a lot of them just have Web3 following from traditional traders, and so you're activating through them, but you're not activating to gamers. One, I think that that's a challenge, and two, that's something that I've been really passionate about is how we connect projects with real gaming creators who have real gaming followers that actually can get interested about this product, and then additionally onboard them into this new space with real intention. And then secondly, I think that's what solves the bridge that I addressed, which is, hey, you know, you might be intimidated by Web3, but this is that identifiable creator that you have trust in, that believes in this product traditionally and really believes in what they're doing, and that's how you build in that landscape. And I think honestly that is the future of how projects like YOM can succeed, is truly putting themselves in front of real gamers. I know that sounds funny, but I just don't see enough of that happening when it comes to other projects in the space where I feel they're marketing within echo chambers, if that makes sense, in Web3. And everybody sounds good and it looks great, but traditional gamers are probably one, not aware of it. And if they're aware of it, they're intimidated or not informed about it.
Right.
That's what I see. So
We got a question from the people who are listening in. They're asking what the biggest difference between a Web 2 and a Web 3 game is. Do you want to handle that, or I'll give my
yeah, I
thoughts
mean,
as well?
from my perspective, coming from the traditional Web2 gaming space, there isn't actually much difference other than development quality right now. There's been
Right.
some that I think have Web2 development quality. Like, and I think that I've been impressed by those titles. One that's come up recently has been like Compete, which I was like, man, that game is actually being picked up by traditional Web2 creators because the game is genuinely just fun. And then secondly, it's just the crypto technology integrations, how they integrate it. Is it powered by a token? How that works, and the way that they onboard that technology is what has been the differentiator. It is like if it's something that they're putting at the forefront, but the education isn't there, that's an issue, right? Because if a Web2 traditional gamer steps into it, they're automatically like, I'm out. Like I have no
Right.
clue what's going on. So often, more than not, in my experience, the difference is how they integrate the technology of Web3 and then additionally the development quality. And so as the development quality continues to get higher and higher, I think that the thing that they're going to end up starting to have to attack is how they integrate, that Web3 technology that's within the game, right? So
Yeah. I kind of see it very similar, right? The gaming industry is going to recognize the components of Web3 that they really like, but they're going to put it in their Web2 game that they've built for players. That's got the same kind of great mechanics and process and testing process and everything that they've done using traditional gaming for all these years, right? I think if you go the other direction, if you understand the technology of crypto, but you don't understand gaming, I feel like the Web3 space feels very proud of themselves of that the blockchain is this really innovative technology, and it's a lot of really smart people in there, but they undersell how difficult it is to make a great game. So I think they can just go ahead and put simple game mechanics in, and they feel like they understand it. It's a very complex thing to understand the psychology of a game player to make them, enjoy the game, get frustrated when they need to get frustrated, and get rewarded when they should be rewarded. All that balancing and everything it's a science to itself, and just because you're smart in one area doesn't mean you're smart in the other. And I think
Yep.
it's easy to fall into that trap.
Yep. Absolutely.
I'm gonna let's see, is it good enough to play shooting games? I'm going to answer these two questions. I got a couple questions. I want to make sure I read them fully. Isn't YOM completely on the background for gamers? If a game is hosted on YOM, developer interacts, works YOM, and if the game is hosted on YOM, developer interact works YOM, but games might not even notice. Oh yeah. So the question really is, will the gamer even know that you're on a blockchain network, you're on a decentralized network when you're playing YOM? And no, the goal is they wouldn't know. All they know is they've gone to a website and they're playing an Unreal game that looks beautiful and
Yep.
is as low lag. So that's correct. You shouldn't necessarily know. And you know, maybe this is a good question for you too, Julian. We kind of go back and forth about, hey, should we have a watermark, a YOM logo in the corner of every screen that's playing a YOM game, so everyone sees a YOM logo? And I'm like, we don't think, like, YouTube doesn't do that. You know, the YouTube logo doesn't show up in everyone's video. But again, we're still a startup, so we don't know. Any thoughts about like how invasive should the branding be, or should we just be warned against that kind of thing, or any thoughts at all?
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to say that's exactly why I like Yum, is what you just explained, is like the adoption is so easy. You know, you could just load onto the site and there you go. You have this access that isn't really invasive at all. And I think that's what gives it such an opportunity in terms of onboarding new users from traditional gaming space. So yes, I 100% agree. And that's one of the points that I think I'm really excited about Yum about. And then about the watermarking stuff, I think there's two verticals to think about it. You know, from my perspective, you know, a small watermark isn't going to be something that is going to anger too many people who are playing. But also from like a creation perspective, that's where I'm like, okay, well, maybe the watermark is a little invasive to some creators, might prevent them from using the platform if they feel like there's always some form of branding on the screen. To be honest with you, I'm more of like the product will speak legs and they'll come because of the product person. So you know, the watermark may make some form of minute difference in the recognizing of a gamer who may be streaming the game or playing it. But word of mouth and community building and gaming is stronger than any form of vertical. So you know, these things can be relatively inconsequential in comparison to like a community-based initiative around getting gamers to truly use the platforms, tell their friends to truly use it. I think will be good. So
Yeah, okay. Someone's asking if what we have is good enough to play shooting games, and I would say yes. I'm actually playing our test game is a shooting game. We did two. You know, we're creating two test games for our test network. One of them is a shooting game, the other is a racing game, because those are the two where latency is the biggest issue. And so far, it's passing every test, so we're pretty happy. That was a fair question to ask. And then, doesn't that make marketing hard? Your actual core audience is game studios, so technically, so we're actually a double-sided marketplace where we're selling our service to game studios, and then we're also trying to attract gamers to play games, because obviously the more, I think most people know this already, the more people who play, the more rewards that go out to the node owners. And then that also means the more tokens that we burn, because we burn a portion of every reward. So we're helping our token economics by having a lot of hours being played. So what we say is that our incentives are aligned. The game developers and the game players and the YOM token holders were all aligned in the same direction. Let's have a very busy network, which I think is, again, a powerful thing. So marketing to all of them. Hey, so I'm going off to GDC, you know, in a couple of months. Tips on GDC and approaching game development studios to talk to them about YOM. And again, this is me asking for free advice because we haven't really signed on to Genzio yet. So I apologize for trying to grab some free
no,
stuff
no.
from you.
No, I think it's just coming with a place for bringing value to gamers. I know it sounds so simple, but it's so true. And I think that's where I say some in the Web3 space. Sometimes I feel like it's overcomplicated. You know, people just really have some priorities that like, okay, like yes, long term, I understand like your vision, but when you come with an authentic basis of of improving the user experience, that's what people want to hear. That's what a lot of developers are about right now. And traditionally, that's what the communities are grounded in, is how the experience for them being gamers can be not only more accessible, but better quality. And accessibility is a really big issue right now, as we discussed earlier on. And so I
Right.
think that's what I would come through, is that authenticity. I mean, to be quite frank with you, Jeff, that's what kind of attracted me to our conversation initially, is like, I could tell, like, you actually care about the product you're building, you actually care about the communities you're trying to reach. And I think that type of passion in a very passion focused space, that wavelength attracts communication, it attracts partnerships, it attracts relationships. And so that would be my number one thing, going to that space. And that's also my number one tip when speaking to gamers. They want to hear real passion, they want a real interest. They don't want to hear the typical marketing 101. Oh, look at, we're great, this is our product. They want to hear somebody with traditional experience and also passion for what they're building, and telling them why they think they should be using their product. And so I think that's what, if I could recommend anything, one, it'd be that. And then two, just, I mean, going around and having open conversation. I recently went to Licensing Expo in Vegas, for another brand that I currently own. And honestly, I kind of took it that approach, is like, hey, I'm going to go up and I'm going to go speak to the person at Mattel, and I'm going to say, hey, like, how are you doing? Let's have an authentic conversation. It was probably one of the most successful trips I've had from a networking perspective, taking that approach. And so I think YOM has truly actually a great offering. And I do think that taking that to gaming studios in person, I would always take that combo personally.
It's
So
that makes it makes me feel I feel like I can do authentic. That's kind of my
yeah,
wheelhouse. When I get past authentic and have to put on a show, like I always kind of say, like I can sell anything that I believe in. I have a hard time selling things I'm asked to sell just because. So and you're right. I think that that could be what is part of the reason why I've been in the industry for this long, is because it wasn't a big show that we were trying to overly impress everybody. We were just trying to be friends with folks, right? And we at one studio I worked at all the time, we used to say, listen, we're not enjoying our jobs, we're going to make really crappy games, because it's hard to make fun if you're having a horrible time doing it, right? You have to have fun while you're making fun. If you're not, you're not going to make any.
yep,
So I think the same thing with the approaching the game studios. That has been my that was my sort of word I'm looking for. That was my inclination, right? To go in there, just kind of being open book and saying, "Hey, we can do this for you. We think it's really powerful because of these reasons. But if you're not ready for us, or if you don't buy into it yourself, I'll give you some more information. But if you don't see it, then I'll move on to the next guys, because there are enough people who do see it. And again, we're being cautious too. I think Julian, I spoke about this. Like, we don't want to, as we build our network, we want to scale it correctly. We don't want to go in and have too many and have players reach the website and then have to wait in a long queue. I think this is what some of the other platforms, I think Google Stadia fell down for this reason.
yep,
We don't want to be another one of those. So we're trying to scale like
yeah,
reasonably well.
makes complete sense.
Yeah. What are you looking forward to in 2025? What's ahead for you?
Yeah, no, I'm just looking forward to more life, and also this evolving world that we live in from a media perspective. Genzio, I think we've spent, speaking specifically more about Genzio, we've spending a lot of time just continuing to improve our quality of service when it comes to being a fully integratable marketing arm, which I think is always exciting. I think that's why, when I came into Genzio, it made a lot of sense, because traditionally speaking, from gaming organizations and the way that I built them, it really was like just integrating a marketing arm. I came in, I established a studio of designers, creatives, editors, a studio, a network of creators, and really started to build out what is like these massive gaming brands. Notably built one of the fastest gaming brands in the world. We gained 1 million subscribers in 1 month. It's actually never done before on YouTube.
Wow.
And I was really excited about that. And I stay really excited about the opportunity to bring quality marketing to true services. I think with crypto, it's really interesting because a lot of the space is really diluted by botting. So a lot of people have these like false expectations of growth, false expectations of impact, because a lot of the time, I would say 80% of the growth that you see in Web3 is manufactured. And so the opportunity to bring real marketing services to companies, real integration where we can improve their quality across graphics, across video. I mean, I'm really excited about bringing video opportunity to projects as well. I got a big old gold plaque behind me for a reason. I know what I'm doing, and often more than not, I'm coming into our client relationships, and they're talking about YouTube. I'm like, you guys got it all wrong. What's going on here? So we're just focused on being better, and always really being an improving marketing agency in terms of our creative quality, our strategy, and then also leveling up media. As you talked about, you met us through our media house, which is a big staple of who we are at Genzio. We have multiple media houses across the world every year at a lot of crypto events. But this year, you're going to see us in a lot more, a lot more traditional spaces too. We don't just want to be a Web3 marketing agency. A lot of our leadership and experience is actually in Web2. And so
Right.
the potential to expand and be a little bit more than just a Web3 marketing agency is kind of what we're excited about in 2025. And so that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. Because there's just so much opportunity within that discussion. And then from a gaming perspective, I mean, it's just another year. I'm starting to become an unk in the gaming world, so it's hard. I used to be the kid, and now a
Right,
lot of my
right.
creators, at Ghost Gaming, I manage over 40 plus content creators. Now I'm the old guy. I'm 28 years old, so it's
If
tough.
you're the uncle, I'm the grandfather then.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, yeah, you would be. It's been a funny evolution of life, but I'm very grateful for the opportunity to work in this space every day, and there's a lot of opportunity within gaming. It's a great space to be in.
Yeah. Hey, let me bounce this off you too. I had a conversation this morning with someone that it seems like you've got the brain to bounce this off of well. So we're talking to an animation studio that we're dealing in a partnership with, and the idea of transmedia, where you create the assets once for Unreal, and you make both a game and an animated series with the same assets, so it saves a whole bunch of time, and it carries a story from the game to the series, and the series to the game. But my thesis was that the audience for a game is so much more complex than the audience for an animated series. So where you've seen IP made that was popular on an animated series or other places, try to make a game in the days past, right? The PlayStation 2 days and everything. You have an IP that would say, we're going to make a game and make lots of money, and the game just ends up being crap and no one plays it, and the brand gets dinged a little bit. And
Yep.
my thesis was you go the other direction. You find these game studios who have got a game made, and you make an animated series, because the audience for the animated series is going to be less, what's the word I'm looking for? Discerning, I guess, not discerning, but their barrier for enjoyment is lower because they're just sitting passively as opposed to playing actively. Does that ring true to you as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's there already. I mean, you look at if I had to look at the best example of game to animation right now, it's Arcane, right?
Yeah,
So
beautiful.
like that really already quantifies your thesis kind of thing.
You're right.
Like
I didn't even
it
bring
already
that up, and
does
I should
that.
have.
It already does that, to be honest. And so I
Yeah,
would agree with you, right? Like Arcane is such a man, I cannot say enough. As a creative, it like gives me goosebumps because it is that good, and it's
yeah,
crazy because it is League of Legends taken into this vertical that is just so dynamic. And I think what's interesting is that the advantage there is so high because you're already building off a sentiment of like, look, it's my like favorite character. Like I play this person on League of Legends, but then you're already hooked for that reason. But the real hook is actually the animation itself and the writing, and so you're double hooked. I
yeah.
forever will wish that they do this for World of Warcraft as like a long time WoW player. Like, please do it for that. But I think that sentiment within gamers builds brands that are much deeper than just gaming experience itself, and that's what we're seeing with League of Legends. Like this Arcane series, this is the first of what is going to be many actually animation series that they release. And then additionally, if you want to take yourself completely out of the animation perspective, I mean, look at Fallout, right? Fallout is another example of game to series that actually went well. I mean, my parents watched Fallout. They've never played a Fallout game, but they almost used Fallout and its traditional audience as a launch pad of interest, and then the writing and the animation and the in this case the series did the rest, right? So
Right.
I'm a big fan of that model. I think that model works. I think the proof's already in the pudding, and the pudding tastes great because Arcane is like that's the top of the tier, and it's one of the biggest shows on Netflix. So if that
Right.
doesn't show that it works, I'm not sure what does.
Right. I don't know why it didn't come to top of mind when I had that conversation this morning. I'm gonna go back and think as an example.
Yep.
All right, Julian. I think we've gone a good amount of time. Anything that I left off about either Genzio or your work or where you anything I want to touch on that I didn't get through to
No,
you yet?
no, I'm happy to take any other questions, but it's a pleasure. I think we covered a lot of topics that I think were relevant. I'd say there's so much that we could talk about when it comes to gaming that we could probably stay here forever. But no, it's always a pleasure, and definitely look forward to what YOM is doing. So
I got one last question for you, actually. So
sure.
as I go around and I'm, seeking out these independent games, these small game studios, medium-sized game studios, to get them onto our network, I imagine I very much anticipate that a large amount of those aren't going to yet have a marketing partner. That's the kind of work you guys will take on at Genzio as well. Am I right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what we're looking to do. I mean, man, I am salivating for that opportunity actually because I know and I actually, at Ghost Gaming, my main partner and executive co-executive is Todd Harris. He built Smite, right? He built High Res Studios. So I have a lot of relationships already traditionally within the gaming studio space. And I'm just excited about the opportunity to build marketing services out for these gaming platforms because at a large metric, I think the biggest issue around marketing games right now, often for gaming studios, is connectivity. They might have the game, but they don't have the influencer network. They don't have the resources to touch that influencer network. They might have the wrong idea of what influencer marketing looks like. I feel like I am very confident in my knowledge there and my ability there. So I'm definitely excited about that opportunity.
All right. Well, I hope to be able to send a lot of work your way as well. Then, as I make my rounds, I got one last question came up. Baller, he asked, Unreal Engine or Unity? Which do we choose? Right now, YOM is only available for Unreal, but do you have a preference yourself?
I think Unreal. I mean, I think Unreal is the future. Candidly, I
Yeah.
think it's going to continue to be. I am really excited about Unreal. I'm really excited about Unreal in general and across a multiple of games. So I would say that. So
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, they've made it very easy, like I said, with the marketplace and the tool suite and putting in AI to make it even easier. Did I tell you the story? I forget if I told you the story that my daughter's 9-year-old friend is building projects in Unreal because
yeah,
she's a
I
smart
mean,
girl and
what one of the biggest examples of the power of Unreal is actually Fortnite. And it's not about Fortnite, the game itself. It's actually what they're offering creatives and creators in the form of building Fortnite maps through Unreal Editor and posting them on Fortnite. I've seen, I managed like 10 or 15 Fortnite creators that have actually turned into Unreal developers via the Unreal Editor. And they've also changed their lives like completely. They started creating Fortnite maps on this engine, started posting them, and some of them have built 7-figure businesses off Fortnite maps.
right,
That's the
right,
type of stuff that we should be excited about because it creates. I mean, Fortnite is first of all, it is at the first. Their number one priority is actually empowering that ecosystem because
right,
they understand the longevity it creates for their game. They could get to a point where they don't even develop the game anymore. Everybody's developing for them. If you think of something like a Roblox, right? If you look at Roblox, it's literally just it's like the base is provided to them, but everything around it is built by the creators and the players themselves. And to be honest, they really almost have to sit back and let it happen. And I think that there will be a time in Fortnite where that is the case as well. And that's honestly because of Unreal. So that's what makes me so excited
right.
about it.
Yeah. And again, it's very right in tandem with our goals for YOM is that if you made content and you're a creative person and you've made good content, let's find a way to put that good content in front of an audience that's going to consume it. And I keep on saying to the people around me, if you want to, YouTube influencers are really, really powerful, but there's going to come a time where game creating or the person who's got the best YOM channel, makes the best games on YOM is going
Yeah.
to have that same kind of pull. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Julian, man, I really appreciate you hanging out with me today and
Yep.
talking to our community and letting them pick your brain a bit and get to hear from you. And like I said, I'm hoping we can do a long time relationship between us and Genzio, and if not even still, you and I stay
Yeah, of
friendly and
course.
be in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having
All
me.
right.
All
Thanks,
right.
guys. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Thank
And
you.
hey, click subscribe. I keep on wanting to say that. Subscribe to the channel, to the YouTube channel, and hit like. Let's get this channel up and spread it out.